Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Visionary Leaders Call. My name is Dr. Josie Schmidt, and I am one of the founders of the Visionary Leaders Collective, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to our podcast. Today is the third Monday of the month, which is our Oils A to Z call with Ariana Harley, Louise Rose ND, Mica Carew ND L.A.C, and Wan L.A.C. They will be doing a deep dive into ginger, the oil of empowerment. And next week, we'll be ending this month of April discussing a happy, healthy brain. Please join us. Now, if you would like to learn about all of our community offerings, please visit hellovisionary.life and follow us on Instagram and YouTube. We'd be grateful if you take time to give us a 5-star rating on this podcast. It helps more folks find us, so that we can further share our wisdom with the world. So without further ado, I will be handing it over to Miss Ariana Harley, who will be starting the call on ginger. Welcome, welcome, Ariana.
I gotta turn on my mic. Hello, everyone. This is Ariana. So glad to see the faces that are with us. Welcome to everyone who's listening to our podcast. I invite you, if you have it, to grab a bottle of ginger. She's spicy. And I'm drinking some tea, so I actually just added a few drops to our tea. It's ginger, so of course you can taste it. It's going to be spicy. This is so concentrated. So remember, when you're having a drop of ginger, you're going to get a power-packed drop. And I invite you also to just drop a drop in your hands. Put your feet on the floor if possible. So we're going to just root down because ginger is just such a powerhouse root. Rub your hands together. Take a deep inhale. Go ahead and just breathe in really deep. Noticing. Where does the ginger go in your body? Where do you notice it? And hold the breath. And when you're ready, go ahead and exhale. Just taking the warmth, the spiciness, the zest of ginger. And then you can either keep breathing in the aroma if that feels good to you, or you can take your hands with the ginger on them and you can put them on your shoulders. And if you want to, I have some shoulders that are a little achy, a little tense. I've been working on them. You can actually rub some ginger on your shoulders, on your back. This is a place where we hold a lot of tension. If you're like me, I'm a little TMJ, so on your jaw is another great spot. Be careful not to rub your eyes. This will kind of burn if you get it in your eyes. But I just invite you to put your hands on your shoulders, close your eyes, and just breathe in the energy of I've got your back. I got you. Right? Just that feeling when we want someone to protect us. We want someone to be looking out for the parts that are our blind spots, right? Can't see behind us. And we can call our own self into that space and just say, I got you. And then when you're ready, also invite you to take your hands off and just kind of shake out any of the weight of the world. So you can kind of roll your shoulders back. Are you holding the weight of the world on your shoulders? Because if you are, that's not your job. That's too heavy. You got to put that baggage down. So we're going to go ahead, keep shaking. I'm going to bring up our PowerPoint here. And for you in the podcast land, I will read what we're visually looking at too. But I am a visual artist and I do well with visual cues. So let me get this up here. So ginger, you can go ahead and type in the chat. Is there anywhere that you just know to go. Ginger for me, I love putting it in my belly button and on my belly because we know it's so good for digestion. We'll talk more about that. So I really love that spot. I love it on my abdomen. I've had some cramps, so that is so yummy. And my new favorite spot for ginger is my shoulders. Love that. I can't not speak to what I'm looking at. I know you guys can't see it, but I am looking at the mighty Pacific Ocean. I love it. I'm at the coast. I feel so blessed to be here. I don't live right by the ocean. I live close, but I get to see it right now. And it is stormy and rainy and so damp and so wet. And I come from the Pacific Northwest, and ginger is such an ally for damp energy because it's warming and circulating. So it feels really good on a wet day today. And so we are going to go ahead and dive in, and I'm going to actually pass the mic to Louise, Dr. Louise Rose, and she's going to talk about the physical uses for our body with ginger. And I say this on all our calls, but we know there's no separation between our mind, body, and soul, but this is a nice way to break up some of the information. So Louise, talk to us about ginger.
Awesome. Thank you, Ariana. Yeah, everybody hopefully is experiencing it for themselves, and that's one of the best ways we learn, right? Is just tune into what our body is telling us about the oil. So, like Ariana said, you're probably all familiar with ginger's many benefits in the digestive system. So, we've known for a long time through herbal medicine, ginger for nausea, right? Ginger tea. We also know that it's a stimulating, circulating, spicy oil. So anytime we're bringing more blood to the area and increasing circulation, even if it's in the digestive tract, we can move toxins along the way. We can stimulate healing of the tissues in the digestive tract that might need that kind of circulation, trying to stay compliant here. And also any sort of stagnancy. So sometimes people have problems related to the fact that their stomach and intestines are slow moving and things aren't really getting out as well as we would like. So ways to use it for digestive support, obviously in your tea is a great way. It goes right down into your digestive tract. But surprisingly, you can get a lot of benefits from using it topically. And I'm a big fan of castor oil packs, which if you don't know too much about those, there's a slide later on about how to do it. But the idea is that you would put your essential oil and a little bit of castor oil on topically on your belly, and that's going to increase circulation to that whole area. So warming, circulating, moving, really supportive to any sort of hormonal imbalance, digestive imbalance, inflammation in that area, really great for the liver. And then, of course, the immune system, which we know is primarily found in the gut. All of our intestines are packed with immune cells because that's our body's first exposure to the outside world through what we put into our mouths. So our immune system is very tightly regulated and wound up in our intestines. So by using ginger topically and internally, you're going to be just supporting your overall cellular inflammatory response, and your immune system will be both stimulated and modulated, which is another cool thing. So there's some great studies that show that ginger helps with a healthy inflammatory response. So we know that inflammation is an important part of healing, and we don't want to get stuck in a chronic inflammatory response. That's when it can become dysfunctional. But when we have a wound or some assault to our tissues, it's really important that our blood and healthy inflammatory cytokines get sent to that area to help deal with the inflammation. So signs of inflammation that we know of are like redness and swelling and heat. And when we put ginger on an area, what do we get? We get redness and heat, probably not too much swelling, but maybe a little bit. So great for aches and pains in the joints, like Ariana said, for that kind of healthy inflammatory response. There's some great research that supports its use for menstrual cramping, great for relieving that kind of tension. I have always been a big fan of our deep blue polyphenol complex for menstrual cramping, which has a pretty big dose of ginger herb in it. So combining those capsules with maybe a castor oil pack or some topical ginger oil would be great for that. Whenever we see the word modulating the immune system, that's an important thing to pay attention to, because we don't always want to stimulate our immune system. Of course, we want our immune system to be responsive to viruses or cancer, or things that we really need our immune system to be on alert for. However, signs of a sort of dysregulated immune system or overactive immune system might look like autoimmune conditions or allergies, where the immune system is reacting to things that aren't really a threat. So ginger, we see, is really helpful for modulating the immune system, helping our body come more into balance with our own immune cells, so we're not either overreacting or underreacting. And in this day and age, with so many toxins that we're exposed to, and so many different things that our bodies are navigating, any way we can support a healthy immune response is going to be great. We already talked a little bit about our cellular health, and we know that that ginger is, again, another layer of informing our cells of their timely vitality and when it's time to let go. Warming and circulating, we can feel it stimulating. So of course, if you're somebody who has circulation problems, try putting ginger on your feet at night before bed. If you have cold feet before bed, warm them up with ginger and then put your socks on and go to bed. You'll notice all night your body will be sleeping better. And then of course, for any sort of tight muscles, I know people who have so much tension in their bodies that the muscles become like cement almost, or like even can look black and blue. And we know that the blood is not able to circulate through and clean out that joint space or that low back area. So later on, I'm going to give a recipe for a great blend that I make that I've renamed it. In the slide it's called Warming and Circulating, but I've renamed it now the Heating Pad, because it's like putting a heating pad on your sore parts. But again, think of it for digestive, cramping, circulating, musculoskeletal, tightness, tension, pain. Ginger improves airflow to the lungs. So when all our bronchioles can dilate and open up, it means that the oxygen can get into our body and create that space to move through the lung space better. turns out ginger helps with that. We know that anytime we're increasing blood flow, like blood flow to the brain, right, we're increasing our capacity for, again, clearing out the old and making way for the new and tidying up all those little cellular junctions and whatnot in the memory. And just another note that ginger, you can see here in this picture, is a root, right? So it is, while it's really circulating and stimulating and warming, it is also grounding and stabilizing energy because it comes from that root. Let me just look at my notes real quick. It can stimulate your appetite. So if you're somebody who has low appetite, try adding a little bit to your tea or your bone broth and see how that works for you. Probably would even work diffusing it, I would imagine. Nice for sore throat. Put it in a little teaspoon of honey and add it to your tea. It's very soothing, and it's also very antimicrobial. So again, if you're taking it internally, it's going to help regulate your blood flow and your immune response to a virus, for instance. My notes here say it is great for low libido. So again, think it's stimulating, circulating. It's kind of a passionate oil. Great for alcohol addiction and feelings of powerlessness. It is useful for all sorts of digestive things, going down through my notes, breaking up stagnation. Like Ariana said, if there's like dampness in the gut, which looks like chronic diarrhea or loose stools, ginger can warm, stimulate, and dry out that terrain. And then we already talked about spasms and cramping. And that's all I have for my notes, but I'm really can't wait to hear what all the others have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Louise. Another way that I just used ginger is for car sickness. So I was in the back seat and we were going to go on a hike. And if I read or look at my phone or do anything and not look straight out of the window in the back seat, if you're like me, and get car sick or motion sick, you know what that feels like. So if you're going on the ocean in a boat, or you're going in a car ride or a plane ride, ginger is always something I bring with me when I'm traveling because it is so great. We have ginger drops, so those are so convenient because you can just take one of those, and I love them for a scratchy, irritated throat too. I love using ginger for that. So just a few more awesome ways ginger loves to help us.
I'm gonna say something about the physical. We always have it in our car, not for just nausea, but and then also in our first aid kit, because for hypothermia, or if you go skiing or you get stuck someplace, if you're in a cold, wet rain, it's really important to have that in your car. And then what you can do is just, if somebody's like that deep, my gosh, it's really deep cold and they can't warm up, you take some water and you put a couple drops, like 2 drops of the ginger in, even if it's not warm water, you know, if you don't have warm water, and then just have them drink that, sip that, that'll get to that deep, deep level of cold. So have that in your first aid kit and in your car.
I love that. Yeah, I'm a person that runs cold. So ginger is just, it's such an ally if, you know, if you have that kind of predisposition. And I also think of it like, you know how you can buy those little hand warmers when you're camping, you know, and I used to like put them on my belly if I had cramps when I was working, because I would work out. It was before I used oils. I worked out like, you know, really early in the morning and it was freezing, and I put them in like my socks and I put them in my gloves, and ginger does the same thing. So like I find that keeping your core warm is really helpful. So I like putting it on my hands and feet, but I find if I rub it right on my belly and my lower back, it keeps that core really warm if you're out like hiking or doing something that, you get really chilled. So we are going to transition into emotions and our mind. And I know ginger is also really high in scorbutine, so it's phenomenal for the brain. It's also a beautiful spiritual activator. You can get the energy of ginger. I even think of the word ginger, like ginger is also, redheads are called ginger. And what are some of the stereotypes of redheads? They're spicy, they're fiery, they have spirit, they have life, they're sassy, right? That word ginger just feels like that to me. So if you're needing more courage or motivation, I saw this really funny like little thing on Instagram, and it was a DJ it was during the pandemic, and he couldn't go out and do what he loves to do and play music. And so there was this video of him. He just woke up. He had this really hilarious fuzzy llama robe, and he was just like singing him, like doing a little set and just doing it for himself of like, get out of bed, get motivated, because like in the pandemic, it was kind of like being stuck at home. It was like you could just get really lethargic. And so I think of that DJ as ginger's energy, like when you're like, let's get going, let's like put some warmth under us and like move, right? It encourages feelings of balance and stability. So anything that when we're using roots, think of that emotionally, what that means. If you feel uprooted, if you transplant a plant and break its roots, the plant is in a very fragile place at that time. And so you give it water, you give it light, you give it love, you treat it tenderly because it has to reestablish itself in a new environment. And I believe that humans are the same way, and we can get emotionally or spiritually or physically uprooted in times in our life. If we have a sudden shock, if we have a death, if we move to a new home, if we have an end to a relationship or a job, those can feel very unstabilizing sometimes. If we are doing trauma work, that can also be very scary and unstabilizing. So I was just sharing before we officially started the call that I did a really beautiful workshop with my Clear Mind community about generational healing. And I used ginger during the whole time, and often Siberian fir or our trees are used for those purposes. Those are lovely. Black spruce is great, Douglas fir, but I loved ginger in there. It just felt like it got the energy moving, and it got the old stuff that wasn't grieved. We know that if we don't grieve our losses, it's epigenetics. They get cellularly passed down to the next generation to hold and work through. Many cultures have many different words and stories and ways to describe this. In science, it's epigenetics. And so I really love ginger's energy of grounding and rooting us, but also that digestive part, right? Like it helps us with that assimilation of old traumas. Really helps with deep patterns of victim mentality. So we were talking about the warmth and the fire and the power of ginger. And so it helps the mind shift from things are happening to me to I am, controlling my own being, my own destiny. And that is really the power we have in the world. We can't change anyone else, but we can work on our own perspective and our own approach in this world. Supporting one to choose their own destiny. I just said that. So bring in ginger if you need to get out of a little bit of blaming everyone else and blaming the world for your problems. We all do that sometimes when we get in a funky mood. Oh, the traffic, oh, the weather. We were just talking about the weather in Portland. I'm like, it's so gray and cold, I'm getting so moody. So bring ginger in. And it's just its energy of, it's like I said, moving out of the fight, flight, freeze response or fawn. So if you are in a safe space, but your body is telling you you're not, that can happen with trauma, and we can get triggered where we're getting these messages of, oh, I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe. This can happen even in really good things. Like our mind likes to know, our mind likes repetition, and our mind likes the known. So if we are growing and expanding and we are moving into a different zone, our mind can go, I don't know what this is, even if it's great, right? Like, it's unfamiliar. I don't know what to expect. We feel that butterfly when we get in a new relationship. Sometimes, like, you have a crush on someone and you get like, oh, I'm so excited and this is really good, but I'm scared because I don't really know them and it's new. So ask Ginger to help you in times like that too. So I believe that's mostly what I have for Ginger, and I'm going to move to the spirit and energetic uses, and I'm going to hand that off to Mica. But I just wanted to say, when Dr. Louise and I were doing a meditation with Ginger, I wrote on the slide, I am the strong roots that nourish the blossom. And if you've ever seen ginger, we're using ginger's root, but if you've ever seen ginger flowers, they are phenomenal. So I think about that root energy making that absolutely gorgeous work of art, pink flower that blooms.
Oh, Ariana, yay. Louise, yay. Yes, so right on. So ginger, I'm going to tell you the truth. I was going about my last night, okay, because I usually do the meditation the night before and then I redo it in the morning, or I'll do it the night before and have ginger by my bedside or whatever oil we're working with so I can dream with it. And in the morning, I do another meditation. And this morning, I went and grabbed the ginger, and the tears were just pouring down my face. And it had nothing to do with, my experience, if anything that happened in the morning. It was just a rhythmic morning, taking care of business. And then it was so obvious and clear that ginger was helping to unravel something in my body. And so when you're talking about family trauma, probably, I don't even know, it's still in process, which is amazing, because I'm going to be working with ginger now, that maybe eventually it'll come to my awareness of what it is, but maybe not. And that's okay. But how amazing that these oils, and right now ginger, can unravel that trauma with mercifully, basically in a gentle, merciful way. So I was wondering, because it was still happening when I got on the call with all of you. Like, the tears are still coming. I wonder if the tears are going to come when I'm talking, but they might. But I'm so grateful for these calls and for these oils, because they are such a merciful and helpful way to heal us, body, mind, and spirit. Without a doubt, I experience it all the time. So what I did get, just, following what Ariana said, is then I had first of all, a visual. And if I would do these meditations earlier, I would give you a picture, but I just don't do them like that. I had this vision of me, how you're walking down it was night, and there's a house and it has all the warm lights on, and it's so inviting. And then there was a candle in the window and the flame is going, and it's an invitation of warmth and support. And I think Ariana even said the word, I got you. I don't know if that was earlier on or before we started the call, of like, You're held, you're supported. Here I am, the warm hearth, the warm house with the golden lights, and I'm even going to give you ginger cookies, you know, all of that. You want some tea and cookies? That's ginger, you know. So think of it when you're needing that, an invitation for a warm embrace and a warm homecoming, a homecoming to yourself. What I got directly, isn't that a beautiful visual? It's so lovely. I am the light in the darkness. I am the warmth when you're cold. Yeah, for sure. I can hold you. I can help create deep inner warmth. That's body, mind, and spirit. Like when you need that warmth spiritually and emotionally. Okay, I described my visual. Yes, I can help you move out of a stagnant, habitual, unhelpful habits, right? Help move them out. I can help move out embedded, stagnant habits that aren't supportive of you, and at least create some space between you and that habit so that you have the opportunity to make a different choice. Right? So if the habit is so embedded in you, in your cells, in your mental, emotional, and your spiritual bodies, then you don't even know that the habit is maybe not great for you, right? Or you're just doing it, you do the habit every day and it's not supportive of you. Ginger can help kind of, the word, I'm going to use a doctor word because I don't even know, like debride, but I just, like separate you from that pattern so you could go, oh my gosh, I'm doing this and this isn't a great pattern, and just have that awareness that you can make a different choice. Yeah, I can help you move from chronic, unhelpful habits. And Dr. Louise talked about chronic inflammation. So we're talking about moving out chronic, unhelpful habits. Yes, hold on. There's something else that was really good. Locked up places in yourself. When you have locked up places in yourself, I can help soften those unlocked places. Yeah, so you can move forward and be your full potential. You also spoke to this, Ariana, about, you're saying the butterflies, but more of like when you procrastinate because you're about to break through your ceiling. Yes, fear of success. When you're just all of a sudden like, oh, you've been working toward this goal, and then all of a sudden you just decide to, just put it on pause. Yeah, that's when you're just about to get through to that next level. Use ginger, diffuse ginger, have ginger tea. I'm sure that Dr. Louise has some kind of amazing drink we could do with ginger. Or how about the fairy frankincense tea? Frankincense, wild orange, and ginger in the morning. We can put that up. Oh, and awakes the foggy, sleepy brain. That kind of, I call that, when we're talking about the spiritual, is like this kind of veil again, that when you're moving forward emotionally and spiritually, you might hit this kind of like this shadow or this veil that you need to move through. Use ginger, definitely diffuse it. Then I put some on my third eye. It felt really good. Let's see. How is that? Yep, that's all for me.
So good. Thank you. When you were talking about those habits we don't even know we're doing, often too, we get those from our ancestors, and they started off with a really, like a purpose. There was a need to survive, right? So then we transfer those down to our generations to protect us, but then they are outdated or outmolded at a certain time. So I just love that bringing in awareness. So why am I doing this? And I loved what you said, Mica, about the fear of success. When I was working with ginger, I was definitely working on socioeconomic rules and patterning for my family who had a lot of loss. And so ideas around poverty and survival, and I just love bringing ginger in for those energies.
Mhm.
And then now we get to hear about, I always get excited about this, the traditional Chinese medicine aspects of ginger, which I know ginger is used a lot in TCM, from Will Wan. So he's going to talk to us about ginger in that aspect.
Thank you so much. And everyone is so right on with ginger. It's just so amazing how everything seems to fold in to each other's presentation, because it's a plant that is offering a lot of information. So for ginger, of course, Chinese culture, we've used ginger for millennia in terms of cooking to medicinal wise. It's one of those few herbs that has many different parts to it, meaning we utilize ginger in different forms, whether that be the fresh ginger, it's called shenjiang. There's also the fresh ginger peel, this shenjiang pi. And then we utilize something called dried ginger, which up until recently, I always thought, okay, you just take fresh ginger and dry it. But actually, dried ginger, ganjiang, is more of a different harvesting time period. So fresh ginger is harvested typically before the winter solstice. And then for utilizing it as dried ginger, ganjiang, it's more harvested after the winter solstice, and when all the upper aerial part have completely dried. So that can mean anytime after January into February, but ultimately they contain different properties. So, well, let's take a little bit closer look again at ginger. So ginger, again, is very pungent, warming. Everyone has mentioned those kind of actions or properties. It has a slightly sweet to me and slightly more acrid, meaning has ability to astringe and move. So it affects the lung and the spleen and the stomach for the fresh ginger. But when you take the dry ginger, the ganjiang, it more affects the heart, spleen, and the lungs as different sort of harvesting times will change the sort of properties that it goes to in terms of the meridians or the channels, I should say. Overall, ginger has the ability to, we talked a lot about freeing the surface, freeing the cold. That's kind of almost like when Mica was talking about that warm cabin hut. I thought of in my use with ginger more of like a sauna, a dry sauna. It's like after a cold ski hike outside in the wintertime, really wet, and all your clothes are wet. And ginger is literally like the herb that gets you into a hot sauna, removes all this wet clothing from you on that surface layer, so you don't get it any colder. And then it frees up existing coldness on your skin. And then it really goes to penetrate even deeper into the joints of the body, into the sort of surface upper part of the body, and dries it. So you're no longer having that stimuli of cold. We talk a lot about in Chinese medicine, ginger going directly to affect the middle jiao, or the middle part of the body, the middle burner. And so as part of that, we utilize ginger a lot in Chinese cooking. It's one of the main so-called five spices, if you will. Ginger is oftentimes cooked, if you're cooking Chinese Asian food in general, you would stir fry sliced ginger first, maybe 3 to 4 slices, and then put it into the wok, quick stir fry before you put any protein, whether it be animal or vegetable-based protein. So that way it sort of starts to work to, again, neutralize the sort of flavor of the protein. And that gets to the next action of ginger, which is sort of neutralizing or detoxifying any substance, whether that be if you're using Chinese formula, you would use ginger to detoxify, or what we call neutralize, the so-called toxic effect of aconite or bancha or penillia. So those types of herbs we utilize to tone down the toxicity with ginger and making it more, again, usable as a medicinal. It balances what we call the nutritive layer and the protective layer, the yin and the wei qi. So what that means is that ginger has this capacity, so-called the immune system, if you want to, again, look at it, as we've talked about it in a different language, that nutritive layer and that protective layer are sort of that outer layer of our defense against any kind of pathogenic factors. So it helps to rebalance, again, what is going to support your immune system, going to re-regulate how robust your sort of protective, your yin and the wei qi are. So very helpful for that. In terms of other kind of notes that I just kind of realized that peel of the fresh ginger is used a lot for any kind of promotion of urination, so helping with freeing up that sort of edema in the lower extremities where fluid can tend to build. I always never really thought about that, but that's one of the main uses for fresh ginger peel. The other kind of topic that I forgot to mention in terms of cooking is if you use fresh ginger and then compared to dried ginger, again, the timing of harvesting. The dried ginger, ganjiang, and you take the peel, that medicinal, and then you fry it up until it's slightly blackened on the outside. That's another form of medicine called paojiang, and that can actually be helpful for any type of more deep cold. So again, when we're completely collapsed from exhaustion, that sense of contracture, that sense of internal folding upon yourself of collapse, you take that dried ginger and you fry it up, and that's really one of the stronger types of medicinals to really, again, help the expansion, remove that contracture of cold, deep cold and deep collapse, and free up that yang qi. Other aspects of fresh ginger, which I would recommend using, is in sort of Chinese culture, we call it the golden month, which is like the 10th month of pregnancy. So obviously postnatal, after you've birthed the child, there's this another 30 days in Chinese culture where it's a special time, but part of that period we utilize fresh ginger or ginger to rewarm the mother. And how we do that is, prior to actually essential oils, we would just cook the fresh ginger slices and slap it onto the spine of the mother. What you can do with this essential oil is actually just apply a couple of drops to the spine, go from more of the tailbone up to the occiput, the top of the head, every day for those 30 days. Will help again support the mother in healing, support the especially vulnerability, if you will, of that mother from cold. It's a very specific time to really help warm the mother because they've really utilized a lot of their yang qi to birth life, into this world. Anything else? I think that's it for me.
Thank you so much. I love that idea for a mom with a new baby. That just sounds so perfect after birth and energetically just protective and nurturing. I can just feel it on I'm just imagining a spinal treatment with ginger. Yes, yes, yes. There are a lot of amazing recipes for making bone broth. I have not included it here on the slide, but I did want to say that if you have some yummy bone broth of your choice, adding a drop of celery seed and a drop of ginger makes it so delicious. I love bone broth in the morning for breakfast. And I was, approximating what I use. I probably use a little less than 32 ounces, but I would say like 1 drop to 32 ounces. Sometimes a few more drops get in there, and that's okay with me. So do any of you have any input on ginger and bone broth or recipes that you like on that scale? No? Yeah, so I encourage you, if you like bone broth like me, some ginger and celery seed oil, and they're so yummy. And then I have a recipe for ginger and lemon throat drops. So you can buy the ginger drops already made, which is what I do, but a lot of people love DIY recipes. And so this is going to, I include here, I can put it on our Facebook groups, but you're going to use lemon oil. It's 3 drops lemon oil, 1 drop ginger oil, quarter cup of, or 3/4 cup, of honey, 3/4 cups of water, and 1 tablespoon of vitamin C powder. And then there's instructions on that. So you heat those up, and it's kind of like if you've ever made candy, but you're making your ginger throat drops. And that would be so yummy for the throat and the immune system and tastes so good. And then this is Dr. Louise Rose's golden chai recipe. So just imagine the feeling of this. I mean, it's so perfect. I know we're all over the world when we hear this and listen and at different times, but like I said, I'm looking at the cold Pacific Ocean. My friend from North Carolina was like, I don't use the word beach for the Oregon coast because when I think of beach, I think of swimsuits and sunshine. And when I think of Oregon coast, like when I think of it being a native here, it's like, no, I think of a big jacket and a scarf and a hat and a lot of cold. So this would be great for those times, skiing, winter, of course. And this has ginger, turmeric, black pepper, cardamom, cinnamon, and clove. And I'm going to read this one for people on the podcast, but we will also include the image. It's pretty easy. You're going to blend your chai oils in a 2-ounce dropper bottle. So this makes it super convenient, right? You can take this on a vacation with you. You brew your favorite black or rooibos tea, and then you're going to add 3 to 5 drops of this chai blend with your tea, milk, and a sweetener of your choice. And the recipe is 100 drops of ginger, 50 drops of turmeric. This is like a phenomenal recipe for your joints too, FYI, and your brain. 5 milliliters of black pepper, 5 milliliters of cardamom, 5 milliliters of cinnamon, and 5 milliliters of clove. Yum. So Louise, anything you want to add about that recipe?
Not really. It's just you only have to make it up once. It's really easy, and then you have it for whenever you're making a cup of tea. Just add a few drops and you're good to go. I've always thought it would be a fun Christmas gift to blend this oil blend into honey and put it in a cute little jar and give it to somebody so they could just take a spoonful of the already flavored chai honey and add to their tea. So feel free to take that idea and run with it.
I think I might have to make that for an April gift to myself. And then warming and circulating in a 15 milliliter. This is also a recipe from Dr. Rose. In a 15 milliliter roller bottle, you're going to add 20 drops of frankincense, 20 drops of clove, 40 drops of turmeric, 10 drops of ginger, and 40 drops of lemongrass. And you're going to go ahead and fill that with a fractionated coconut oil and roll over sore muscles. And this is a great recipe if you are arthritic. Sometimes, the cold can be a little too chilling. So I love our deep blue, but sometimes if you run cold like me, that can feel really cold and you don't want that when it's like it is outside of my window right now. So this just sounds so warming and good. And then a castor oil pack. Or you can have this in a capsule, either one. You're going to use ginger, cardamom, celery seed, and tangerine. And there is a how-to recipe at rosecabinetmedicine.com. And so Louise has that on her website if you want to check that out. And there's a little diagram we have here on the slide too. You can also Google castor oil packs if you're not familiar and get great directions. Good old Google gives us so many great learning. If you're looking to have some ginger in some of our blends, it's also found in Cheer, Digest Zen, Passion, Metapower, and Tamer. So those are all blends that have to do with our digestion, with our passion. You can kind of get the feel from what we've talked about today. And then also for convenience, there are some really yummy ginger drops if you don't want to take the time to make them yourself. doTERRA has done it for you already. They're ginger and lemon drops. I have a bag of them with me and they are delicious. Great to have in your pocket or purse or in your car. Safety for ginger. If you put some on with us today, you will feel it is spicy. I rub my eyes with it because I was using it all weekend. That does not feel good. If that ever happens, just put fractionated coconut oil or a carrier oil around your eye socket. So you don't want it in your eyes. It can cause possible skin sensitivity. So again, just use a carrier oil if that's feeling too spicy. It's definitely going to be an intense oil for children. So it would need to be diluted if you were using that topically with children. If you're pregnant, nursing, or under a doctor's care, consult your physician. And like I said, avoid contact with eyes, inner ears, and sensitive areas. But ginger is used in cooking and we're pretty familiar with it. So, and then if you want to connect with any of us, you can reach us. Dr. Mica Carew is located in Colorado and she has a website, livinggracemeditation.com. And she has a phenomenal book, Plant Spirit Medicine, which is available on Amazon. It's also available on her website. And it gives a beautiful, such a gift to the world. It's a beautiful explanation of her family's teachings of speaking with the plants and connecting in with the plants. So if that's something you would like to learn about, be sure to pick up our book. And then Wan is also with Wan and Mica are married and they both, so he's in Colorado too. And his email is eliteacupuncture@gmail.com. And he focuses in traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, and sports medicine, and is an amazing athlete. My name is Ariana Harley. You can reach me, my website, arianaharley.com. I'm also on Instagram under Ariana Harley Essential Alchemy, Facebook under the same, and please reach out. I also do some therapeutic coaching with people. I love the mental health counseling aspects, and I love how plants support our emotions and our trauma responses. And then Dr. Louise Rose is in Portland, Oregon. You can find her on Instagram at Rose Cabinet, on Facebook at Rose Cabinet Medicine, and she has a website, rosecabinetmedicine.com. And that concludes our talk about ginger. Please join us next month. If you're joining us live, that would be May of 2023. We are going to talk, May is for marjoram, the M's. So come learn about marjoram. Marjoram is like, I feel like sometimes a forgotten oil by some, but if you're in the know about marjoram, you have marjoram around all the time, especially if you are like an athlete or have any kind of joint pain. It's such a good one. So thank you so much. We will see you next week talking about brain health. And I think ginger is a great oil prior to that conversation because it's great for our brain health. Thank you all. See you next week and have a phenomenal day. Sending much ginger love and spiciness.
Bye. Thank you, Ariana.